Hello and welcome to the 6th tutorial in the Space Bubbles project. In this tutorial I am going to be showing you how to create the warp gate and spawn it in and have its distance displayed at the top of the screen, and we're also going to be able to display the win and game over messages. Okay, so there's the warp gate, it comes in down the screen. When you hit it, it says you win. When you press the R key, it's also going to reset the room for us. And if we collide with the bubbles, it's going to destroy the player character and say game over. So there's a number of things here that we're going to get into play. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing to do is come across to the objects group, right click and create a new object. We're going to create the warp gate object. So open it up and we're going to call it obj_warp gate. Press enter. Come down to the sprite button. Click on no sprite, and we are looking in the miscellaneous folder and we're looking for spr_warpgate. Select that, and that is the sprite we're going to add. A couple of variables to add. Click on variable definitions. So like before, we're going to overwrite the speed and direction properties by having the speed and direction variables. So speed, enter, and I'm going to set the warp gate speed to 2 and change it to an integer data type. I'm also then going to add another variable and call it direction. So we're going to override the default direction and set it to 270, which, if you can remember, is pointing down the screen. So we're going to move down the screen at speed 2 as soon as the object warp gate is created. And that's all we're going to do for the object warp gate. We're not going to do anything else, so we're going to close that down, because all we wanted to do is when it's created is simply just move down the screen. The rest of it is going to be controlled in the object level controller. So double click on that from your objects menu on the right and open it up. If you have some of the windows open already, I like to close them so I can reset. Okay. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the create event. Double click on that, and we are going to start off a new alarm countdown for the object warp gate. So when this new alarm counts down and reaches 0, it's going to essentially create the warp gate and bring it into the level. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually just change around how I've done this previously. If you notice, these blocks also have pluses next to them, and that allows us to add multiple alarms to one block. So if I tick the plus next to the first alarm block, it then adds in another set of properties I can edit. So I'm going to copy this alarm 1 countdown and put it in this top block. So alarm 1, and I'm going to say 180, and then on this new one I'm going to change this to alarm 11, and I'm going to set this to 240 just to start with. Okay, this way I can then keep all of the bubble related alarms, so 0 and 1, that I'm going to put into this block. So as I create more, or as you create more, you can just keep adding them to there. And then this block here is a separate block for the warp gate countdown. Now, one thing I haven't showed you before is you can comment your blocks to make them easier to understand when you're looking back at them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is right click on that comment block and select comment, and then I'm going to just say bubble countdown alarms. Okay, and then I'm going to right click and comment on this one, and I'm going to say warp gate countdown alarm. Okay, so this is really useful because now when you open this up, you'll have this little section where English-based comments will be, and you can write in exactly what's going on just to make everything a bit easier to understand. Okay, so let's add a new event, and we're going to add an event this time for alarm 0. So alarm 11. So when alarm 11 sounds or reaches 0, we are going to create the warp gate. Okay, so drag in a create instant block, search for it if you need to, and select object warp gate. And we're going to create it at just outside the top of the room, so it's going to scroll down, move down into the room from the top. And remember, if we are looking at the coordinates for the room system, we want to be creating it outside the top, which is a minus value on the Y. We do want to create it on the left hand side of the screen, so we're going to create it at X coordinate 0. So X coordinate 0 is absolutely fine, but we're going to move the Y axis creation coordinate back to minus 32. Okay, that will then just move it off the top of the screen. Okay, so let's close that down and let's run the game. And what we should see is after 200 ticks, the object warp gate, so just over 3 seconds, the object warp gate will spawn into the level and start moving down. There we go. Okay, now nothing happens at the minute when we collide with it because we haven't programmed that bit yet. Okay, we also want to display the distance to the warp gate at the top of the screen. Okay, so we're going to do that next. So we're going to open OBJ level controller, and we are going to add in a draw event. Okay, so add event draw, select draw. Now a draw event runs every step of the game and is used to overlay text and other graphical effects on top of the room. Okay, so open that up and we are going to draw in a value. So we're going to type in draw and we're going to look for draw value and we're going to bring that in, and this allows us then to write some text onto the screen. Okay, so what we're going to say is warp gate in, so this is going to tell us how far the warp gate is away from us. Okay, and the value that this is going to be, so it's going to display that bit of text and then it's going to put a value on the end of it. So I'm going to be clever here and say alarm underscore get bracket 11, close the brackets. So what this is saying is it's going to say warp gate in and then whatever the current value of alarm 11 is, because remember alarm 11 is counting down. As soon as that reaches 0, it's going to create the object warp gate for us. So we're going to use that countdown as a measure of distance to when the warp gate comes in. Okay, we're going to now position, where are we going to position this text in the room? Well, we're going to position it right in the middle of the width. So we're going to halfway across the screen. So we're going to say room underscore width divided by 2. So remember our room width is 800, so we're just going to divide that 2 and set it to 400. I could just write 400 in there, but if you ever change the room width size, you would then have to come and change that value. Whereas if we write this, it doesn't matter, it will always put it in the middle of the room, regardless of whatever your room width is. In terms of the Y coordinate, we're just going to move it down a little bit from the top of the screen, so I'm just going to move it down 16 pixels. So this is going to be displayed just down from the top of the screen in the middle. Okay, and it's going to say warp gate in and then the distance. So if we test that straight away, that should begin to work already. There you go, warp gate in, and it's counting down. Now the font could do with updating, it's not great there, so what we're going to do is type in text over here and we then get all our text blocks that we can use, and we want to first of all set the text alignment, so drag in the set text alignment, and we're going to say horizontal alignment again is going to be center, so we're going to put that in the center of the screen, and we're going to set the font. So I'm going to type in font and it's this one here. So we're going to set the font. Now if you come over to your resources tree, we have actually 3 fonts that we can use, a small, medium and large. So we're just going to use the small font, and this is one I've set up for you right at the start of the project. If you want to learn how to do that, you can. Just Google it and it will show you how to do it. But we're going to use the ready-made small text font, and it's going to be center aligned and at the top of the screen. So now if we run the game, it should have a better font and be positioned. There we go, so that's positioned much better. Okay, and you see it counted down. As it counts down, there you go, it stops and the warp gate comes in. Close that down. Okay, well done. Okay, so now we need to code in the win criteria. So when you collide with the warp gate, we want to display the message, you win. Okay, so we're going to create a new variable in our object level controller. So open the variable in object level controller, add variable, and we're going to say game underscore 1. And we're going to set this to a Boolean data type, and we're going to just leave it set to false. So when the game has been won, and in our case it's when the player has collided with the warp gate, we're going to set this to true, and that we can then trigger off the correct message. Okay. So now we've created that variable. Let's go back into the draw event and we can use that to decide whether we're going to draw the you win message. Okay, so we're going to use a different font, so I'm going to immediately override the type of font I'm using here. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold the control key, click on the second one, right click, copy, then click on draw value and right click, paste. Now you can just drag them in manually if you want, or you can just copy and paste as I've done. Just makes it slightly quicker. Right, I'm going to change the font. This time we're going to use the large text when we display the you win message. Okay, and we're then going to drag in a if block. So I've got one in my recently used, and we're going to say here if game_1 equals true, then we're going to display a value. I'm going to bring in the draw value block. Again, it should be in your recently used list. If not, search for it. And we're going to display the caption you win. Okay, we're going to leave the value blank because we don't have any variable values that we're going to put in there. We're just going to simply display you win, and we're going to display this in the middle of the screen again. So room width divided by 2, and this time it's going to be in the middle of the height of the room. So room height divided by 2. Okay, so now we need to trigger this this message to activate by changing the game1 variable to true, and we're going to do that by changing or adding an event to the object player. So close that down, open the object player, and we are going to add a new event here, and this event is when the object player collides. So add a collision with the warp gate. When it collides with the warp gate, so collision event with the warp gate, we are quite simply going to assign a variable. So drag that in or search for it, and the variable we're going to change is obviously the game1 variable, and that variable is located in obj level controller. So we're going to type that in, obj level controller dot game_1. We can't just type game_1 because game_1 variable is not a member of the object player. It is a member of the object level controller. So we need to tell GameMaker that, and we're going to set it to true. So that's one way of telling GameMaker that where the variable is. The other way, if you didn't want to type in the object level controller part and just say game1, is you could actually click on the down arrow here and then select obj level controller there. That would then apply this block to the obj level controller block, and therefore you could just type game1 because it would know where that variable is. Okay, I don't like doing that because I can't see then that variable is being called from a different object, so I like to just say obj level controller. It's up to you how you want to do it. Dot game1 is going to be set to true. After we've collided with the warp gate and we've changed the variable over to true, we then just want to destroy the player object. Okay, so I'm just going to drag in the destroy object because he's completed the game. We're going to remove him from the game. Okay, so let's just now test that. Close that down. Hit the play button. Okay, it loads in. So now when we collide with the warp gate, there it goes. There you go, it says you win and the player disappears. One last message to display now is the game over message. So we're going to go back into the object level controller, so open that up. Okay. And we want to be in the draw event again, so if that's not open already, make sure it is. And we're going to continue to add another if block and draw value. Okay, so I'm going to drag in the if block and I'm going to place it underneath the previous if variable, and it will then snap it down to the bottom. And we need to create, in fact, we need to create another variable. So actually, let's just go back very quickly. Click on the variables tab, add a new variable, and this one is going to be called game_over. And again, it's going to be a Boolean data type, and it's going to be left to false. Okay, so when the player is destroyed, we are then going to select, we're going to turn this variable to true, and that's when we can then trigger the game over message. Okay, come back in here now, and we're going to say game if variable / game over is equal to true. Then I'm going to copy and paste this block. So right click copy, variable right click paste. Remember to drag it up to clip to the side of the if block, and I'm going to say in here game over. Okay, we're going to create it in exactly the same coordinates, so right in the middle of the screen again as well. Okay, let's go and update the player object again. So let's just close OBJ level controller, back into the player object, and then when they collide with the bubble and they have destroyed themselves, we are then going to assign variable obj underscore level controller dot game underscore over equals true. There we go. So then we flip that variable to true. Okay, and that should be it. Let's just test that. So now when I collide with a bubble, there you go. It says game over. Fantastic. One last feature to add is when we press the R key on the keyboard, we're going to restart the room. So that just allows us to restart the game very quickly. So you just need to open the level controller for that, and we just need to add in a new key pressed event into the letters category, and we're looking for R. There we go. So key press letter R. All we're going to do is search for a room action block. So I'm going to type room in, and this is the one you want. Restart room. Drag that in, and that is it. Close that down. Now when you hit the play button, we should be able to restart the room when we press R. So if we hit the warp gate, you win, press R, game restarts. And press R, game restarts. Collide with a bubble, R, game restarts. Fantastic. Well done. You've completed tutorial 6.